All right. Hello, everybody. So again, Business Writing 115. This relatively short video, I'll start my timer here, is just to kind of cover why we're here. I know that part of this is it's a prerequisite and you got to take it. You don't really have much of a choice. But I really want to reframe a little bit and think about what we're going to get out of it, right? What the point of taking business writing is in the context of your education and your future career. So what is business English? Now, again, if you watch the intro video where I talk about myself a little bit, I come from a writing background and I really spent the bulk of my life focusing on how to be a better writer. And it's something that I feel is a continuous iteration, right? We're always working to get better. There are always things we can work on, we can improve on. And nobody's quite mastered yet, right? So for our purposes, I wanted to start with a question of what is business English? And so I came up with what I feel like is a pretty simple definition that I will be using to guide our course, and one that I would like you to think about as the course progresses, which is writing clearly and effectively in a professional business environment. Now, again, I do think that clear communication is effective and effective communication is clear. And there are a couple other layers to that. One is that clear thinking comes before clear writing. So we've got to have a clear idea of what we want to say before we can actually put it into words. Now, that's my definition. The definition in the course catalog is a little bit more specific as to tasks. So I'll go ahead and read most of this. So business writing is a review of vocabulary, punctuation, grammar, and current formats of business correspondence. So think email. Students will write business correspondence, a resume, and a cover letter using standard English, research topics using web technology and standard references to prepare presentation. So a couple of things that I just want to highlight before I move on. Number one, it's a review, right? So hopefully in English 99 or EAP 99 or whatever it is that you took before this, you feel like you've got a pretty good grasp on vocabulary, punctuation, grammar. And if you don't know all the nitty gritty details, what's a gerund, how to use a semicolon, that's fine. We can talk about that too, and probably will do on a case-by-case basis. So again, what we're focusing on are the specifics that you would use in a business environment. Now, I did reach out to a couple of people. I am fortunate enough to have an older brother who works in business. And when I told him I would be teaching this class, he essentially covered the clear and effective communication part. He said, in your class, tell the students to keep it simple, keep it clear, and concise. And that dovetails perfectly with my viewpoint. Now, we're brothers, so we probably have some similar perspectives. But our perspectives are also informed by what we do. I'm an English instructor. My brother works in business, and he's not, writing is not central to his job. He works in marketing, so it's part of it, right? But he does readily recognize the importance. So the next question then, I think, is if we know kind of what business English is it enough just to take the class? And this is something that I would encourage you all to think about, not just with business writing, but with your other classes. Because it's easy to forget that you're here by choice and that you're here with the goal of attaining something, a career, a new position within your career, whatever it is. So a little perspective. For a 5-credit course, you're spending something like 30 hours, 50 hours in the class. So let's say a minimum of 32 hours kind of sitting in the course, watching video lectures, doing discussion boards, and things like that. And you're spending, let's say, 21 hours doing homework for this course. Let's say minimum, right? Between the assignments and the reading and the discussion boards and the quizzes and things like that. So we're already at 53 hours, right? Tuition, and I don't know exactly what tuition is these days, but, let's say it's somewhere between 527, 1414. And I think this is based on numbers from several years ago. So just for this course, right, somewhere between $500,000 and $1,500. So that's a minimum, like bare minimum of 53 hours of time and $500 and that you could use for something else. Now, if you've got a scholarship, if you're having things paid for by the GI Bill, if you're a Running Start student, somebody's still paying for that, right? Even if it's not directly you. So the thing to think about here is, if I said to you, you need to spend 50 hours doing something and it's going to cost you at least $500, what would you want out of that? Because I can't think of many things that I would readily spend $500 on and just think, yeah, I don't really need to get much out of that, right? I just wanted to check a box. So try and internalize that a little bit to think about why we're here, because that will help you absorb the information as the course progresses. So the next sort of question that comes to my mind is, if we know what it is and whether the class alone is enough, the next thing to think about is, are your writing skills strong enough for your future education or career? Now, as I've kind of already said, nobody's perfect, right? And all we can do is get better at this skill of writing. That said, is your ability to write an email, write a resume, write a cover letter good enough for your dream job, right? Not for if you won the lotto, right? And you never had to work again a day in your life, or if you were a famous Instagram influencer, but are they good enough for what you want to do? And you can even step back a bit. Are they good enough to enter into the field with the competitive job market that we have? So I want to break this down a little bit more, and I want to give you some context. So again, lots of questions in this video. Do most students have the skills? So if we just think about going into the writing field, then it makes sense to me to ask, well, where are we at? Is the education system actually preparing people? Now, this is based on numbers in the US from several years ago, but considering that we're in the US and it's the job market that you're entering, I think it makes sense here to look at these specific numbers. 75%, so 3/4 of 12th graders and 8th graders lack proficiency in writing, according to the National Assessment of Educational Progress. Proficiency just means good enough, right? Proficient. I'm at the benchmark of where I should be. So 3/4 of those students don't have adequate skills. It's not that they're not exceptional, but they're not even meeting kind of the minimum benchmark. 40% of high school students who took the ACT writing in 2016, so again, 7 years old, 8 years old now, lacked the reading and writing skills necessary for college level English composition. So 40% were not ready for college. And we could talk about, oh, well, it's the education system, it's COVID, it's all these other things. But it's the situation we're in, right? Whatever got us there, or got us here, right? This is where we're at. Oh, come on. Employers also kind of think the same thing. According to employers, 26.2% of college students had deficient writing skills. So we went from not just proficient and deficient, basically, not being proficient and being deficient, same thing, right? So 1/4 of college students didn't have the writing skills they needed for their employment. Employers said that more than 25% of college graduates were not only poor writers, but lacked communication skills across the board. And that's something that you will probably go into in Business Writing 215 as you talk about oral communication skills and presentations. College Board data showed that 50%, so half of employers, take writing into consideration when hiring professional staff. And 80% of corporations with employment growth potential assess writing during hiring. Now, we're going to kind of bring this video in for a landing here because we're almost to 10 minutes. But what I want you to be thinking about is, given the fact that high school students are deficient 75% of them, according to the data we looked at, have deficient writing skills or not up to par. And 25% of college graduates are deficient in their writing skills. And given that 50%, half of employers take writing into consideration when hiring professional staff, you can leverage that to your ability. You now know that part of what's missing from a lot of people's skill set is the ability to communicate clearly and effectively. And if you can communicate clearly and effectively, you have an advantage not only in the hiring process, but in your professional world. And in a separate video, we can look at how that actually impacts the amount of money you make, your career advancement, and things like that. So I'll go ahead and end there. Just a lot of food for thought as we begin to dive into business writing and the context or the situation in which we find ourselves. If you do have any questions, comments, concerns, jokes, memes, or recipes, please do let me know, and I will talk to you all later.